हेलो एंड वेलकम टू अनदर एपिसोड ऑफ द Educatives पॉडकास्ट। आज के इस एपिसोड में हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं अनम हारून। अनम इज़ अ सीनियर प्रोडक्ट डिज़ाइनर एट एजुकेटिव एंड इन दिस एपिसोड वी टॉक अबाउट अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स इंक्लूडिंग हाउ टू ग्रो एज अ डिज़ाइनर, how to improve your portfolio and some resources to help you improve your skills. So let's start. Assalamu alaikum Anam and welcome to the podcast.
Walaikum salam. Happy to be here.
So let's start with your background. Tell us a bit about yourself. आप कैसे डिज़ाइन फील्ड में किस तरह से एंटर हुई एंड हाउ हैज़ बीन द जर्नी सो फार?
So, if I go all the way back, I've always been interested in art and design. So, मैं वो बच्चा होती थी जिसके साथ 10 sketchbooks होती थी. As I grew older, I used to love puzzle games and mind strengthening games like Lumosity. The problem solving का शुरू से ही
Right.
शौक था मुझे. Somehow I ended up doing computer science, and bachelor's in CS wasn't enough, so I started my master's in computer science as well, but this time with the focus
Okay.
on HCI and design thinking. एंड इसके अलावा बेसिकली मास्टर्स जब मैं कर रही थी तो इट वाज माय फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर एंड आई took an HCI class with Dr. Suleiman Shahid, who's been my main inspiration in this field. And that's when I realized कि ये मेरे लिए एक perfect career है क्योंकि इसके अंदर एक blend है of the aesthetic artistic side with the problem solving and an impactful side. So I loved this field. I loved working on product projects. And masters के दौरान ही I started my RA-ship at Chisel. और उसमें I started gaining practical experience working with clients, working with funding agencies. ज़्यादातर मेरा काम उस वक्त assistive tech पे था. And even my master's
Okay.
thesis was a fusion of gamification and assistive tech, where I worked on remedial therapy, a tool for children with dyslexia. आपने तारे ज़मीन पर देखी होगी तो आपको अंदाज़ा
Yes,
होगा
yes, yes.
dyslexia का.
बिल्कुल.
And I'm happy to say कि it's now a published game on Play Store with a few users,
Oh,
and we're
that's
we're
great.
growing.
Nice.
तो
That
करियर
sounds
वाइज उसके
interesting.
बाद फिर एक साल मैंने आरएशिप की एट एट चिजल एंड देन उसके बाद आई जॉइन डिज़ाइनिस्ट एज अ सीनियर प्रोडक्ट डिज़ाइनर एंड आई वाज आल्सो कंसल्टिंग अ फ्यू प्रोजेक्ट्स एट लम्स ऑन द साइड. तो डिज़ाइनर्स में आई गॉट एन अपॉर्चुनिटी टू वर्क on many different projects with many diverse clients, mostly in the fintech space and e-commerce side. Um,
Hmm.
तरक्की एक client था हमारा जिसमें I led the product
Okay.
design and revamped their mobile application and portal. I also worked with Malt 7, which is based in
Hmm.
the US. And through them, I got a chance to travel to Rwanda in Africa. And udher, I helped them in setting up an instant payment system. So that was a very different experience. And after working for like over 2.5 years at Designist, I now very recently joined Educative. So abhi it's just been a week, so
Oh,
I'm getting acquainted with the system, with the product, and with the team.
wow. That's been such a wonderful journey, I guess, like working on so many different projects. So, shifting from CS, like let's start with uh like at that point. Okay, coming from a CS background, I know you had interest in design and art, but like generally, how what's the mindset shift that you need to shift from CS to HCI maybe? Like, do you think there's a barrier there? Is it difficult? Is it easy? How was it for you?
I feel like it was a very smooth transition because coming from a background of CS, I feel like कि the advantage that I had was कि मुझे technical jargon समझ आती थी. मुझे ये पता था कि मैं जो
Mm-hmm.
design बनाऊंगी, how is that going to be implemented? What challenges people can
Mm-hmm.
face? What is a technically feasible design versus what is something that looks beautiful but is just not possible or feasible to implement it.
Hmm.
तो आई वुड से कि उस सेंस
Yeah.
में आई हैड एन एडवांटेज. एंड इसके अलावा ऑफ कोर्स लाइक इफ यू आर गोइंग इनटू अ न्यू फील्ड देयर आर न्यू कॉन्सेप्ट्स दैट यू लर्न एंड दैट्स व्हाट आई लर्नड
Mm-hmm.
ड्यूरिंग माय आरशिप ड्यूरिंग माय मास्टर्स डिग्री.
ओके. सो पाकिस्तान में आई गेस ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड भी काफ़ी हद तक, लेकिन पाकिस्तान में काफ़ी ज़्यादा ये कॉन्सेप्ट है कि व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट डिज़ाइन, इवन यूआई यूएक्स डिज़ाइन, तो बहुत ज़्यादा लोगों के माइंड में, इवन कंपनीज हु आर हायरिंग, दे ट्राई टू सीक आउट पीपल हु आर लाइक गुड इन विजुअल डिज़ाइन। बेसिक ज़्यादा
हम्म।
फोकस इस चीज़ पे होता है कि आप अच्छी स्क्रीन्स कैसे बना सकते हैं, एंड लाइक दैट्स इट, आपका विजुअल कितना अच्छा है। इवन पोर्टफोलियोज के अंदर भी इट्स यूजुअली कि आपका भी हैंड्स के ऊपर कोई पोर्टफोलियो है, ड्रिबल पे है, आपने स्क्रीन्स कैसी बनाई हैं, तो शो अस दैट। सो कमिंग लाइक अगेन, when shifting from CS to UX design, was that something that you encountered, या फिर नहीं, there's another question here कि for like people who are viewing this, can you explain कि होता क्या है, like what is uh, HCI, what is UX design itself, like is it visual design, is it just screens, या फिर when we talk about design, तो what are we talking about?
So when it comes to design, it is a lot more than the visuals and the aesthetics. And you're right कि पाकिस्तान में काफ़ी लोगों का ये मिसकंसेप्शन होती है कि मुझे ना एप्पल की तरह दिखना है. Like it's just about the visuals. There's no more
Mm-hmm.
thinking to it. But design is a
Mm-hmm.
lot more than that. It's about functionality. It's about the users. It's about कि आपने किसके लिए डिज़ाइन करना है,
Mm-hmm.
आप क्यों डिज़ाइन कर रहे हैं, एंड मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंटली आप प्रॉब्लम क्या सॉल्व कर रहे हैं. सो ये सारे इसका सब चीज़ों का ना एक प्रोसेस होता है. एंड फॉर एवरी कंपनी देर आर डिफरेंट चैलेंजेस. आप हमेशा पूरा प्रोसेस फॉलो नहीं कर पाते हो. And that's when you need to know what to
Mm-hmm.
prioritize, which, like, do I prioritize research, do I prioritize ideation, how much time do I spend on UI.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to this के सिर्फ visuals को देखा जाए, that's something that a lot of designers are expected to do in Pakistan, and I personally don't agree with it. क्योंकि we as designers are trained कि हम ना अपनी डिज़ाइन थिंकिंग प्रोसेस को बेहतर करें, which means कि we are problem solvers, not just artists. We're not just designers, we
Mm-hmm.
actually solve problems.
Let's start with Rwanda. So, uh, how was the experience at Rwanda, and what exactly did you get to do there?
It was amazing. It's a different continent. That it's the first time I traveled to Africa. So I was exposed to a different culture, and it's a beautiful place. I would really recommend that you go there. And what I actually did there was कि वहाँ पर I helped them set an instant payment system. So यहाँ पर पाकिस्तान में हमारे पास रास्त है, which is a instant
Mm-hmm.
payment system that is free to use, right? So it's a national payment system
Mm-hmm.
in Pakistan. So that's something over there it didn't exist. तो we as
Oh,
a team,
okay.
like designist में हम लोग product design को देख रहे थे, and there were other uh, parts of the team like engineering, business, that were there from like different parts of the world, from US, from Canada, from the UK. So we like
Mm-hmm.
collaborated and worked on this. तो अभी भी वो project का second part चल रहा है. What we focused on was P2P ट्रांसफर्स, विच मीन्स पर्सन टू पर्सन ट्रांसफर. सो मैं अगर आपको पैसे भेजने हो अफ्रीका में तो मैं किस तरह से भेजूंगी एंड
Mm-hmm.
स्टफ. लाइक वन वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग दैट
Okay,
आईड लाइक
that's
टू टेल
interesting.
यू इज कि वहाँ पर ना वो यूज़ करते हैं USSD, विच इज़ बेसिकली अ स्ट्रिंग फॉर्मेट. विच मीन्स कि आप फॉर एग्जांपल अपने फ़ोन पे *124# डायल करते हो तो आपको एक टेक्स्ट आता है.
Mm-hmm.
लाइक नॉट एन SMS, बट लाइक अ, you get like a text in front of you, and then you dial
Mm-hmm.
further 1*1 or something like that, right? That's called USSD. तो ये जो है ना, ये चीज़ वहाँ पर बहुत यूज़ होती है everyday transactions में.
Okay,
And since they have like small feature
interesting.
phones, तो वो उसमें भी compatible रहता
Mm-hmm.
है. Like they do have like smartphones, but a lot
Okay,
of people
nice.
carry small feature phones as well. तो वो एक बड़ी different चीज़ थी जो हमें
Mm-hmm.
देखने को मिली, और हमने इसको काफ़ी improve किया.
So, talking about product design and your experience as a product designer, specifically like in roles that you've worked at, whether it's in LUMS, whether it's in design is, yeah, when like now that you've joined Educative, what is generally like, what does a product team looks like आपके ख्याल में? Sometimes obviously like when working freelance या फिर छोटे projects होते हैं, तो we know कि there's one designer, and फिर डेव के साथ हैंड ऑफ है, या फिर हमने जो एसेट्स हैं वो डेवलपर्स को देने हैं. बट लाइक जनरली व्हेन यू आर वर्किंग, जैसे तरक्की पे आपने काम किया, दे हैड लाइक designers in house as well. You were working as a design consultant and overlooking the project. What is the structure of a design team or a product team?
सो स्ट्रक्चर और हायरार्की जो होती है प्रोडक्ट टीम की वो डिपेंड करती है ऑन हाउ बिग द कंपनी इज सो इन लार्जर वेल established companies there are a lot more roles, a lot more departments than a smaller startup, like early stage startup या smaller company. तो लार्जर कंपनीज की अगर पहले बात मैं आपको दोनों का बताती हूँ. लार्जर कंपनीज की अगर बात की जाए तो उसमें वी हैव लाइक अ वीपी प्रोडक्ट or head of product, like currently in Educative we do. It's a comparatively large company. We have product managers, then we have senior product designers too, or in some cases we might have senior product designers 3 who are a level ahead. Then we have senior product designers 1, we have product designers, we have product designers that are associate or early levels. We might have some interns working with them. So this is like a lot, a really big product design department. In smaller companies or startups, we might have a product manager who mostly acts as a project manager, which means that they are looking into the timelines and looking into if the requirements are being met, if the communication between the management and the team is being done. But they also look at the business side of things, the impact, the data. They so that's the role that they have. Then we have senior product designers, or just one product designer working in a startup. इसमें इनका जो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज़ होती हैं वो ये होती हैं कि they work on the research, the UX, which includes ideation, wireframing, sometimes even copywriting and UI testing. And if they're skilled in visuals, so they're also involved in branding, graphic design, and animation. They either report to product managers if they exist, or to the CEO of the company directly. And there might be some UI UX designers working with them, and seniors might mentor them along the way. So like ये तो हो गई ना hierarchy, but like if you ask me which approach is best, for a smaller company, I would say that there should be at least 3 people in a design squad or in a design department, which includes a product manager who looks at the business, who looks at the communication, so that the designers who are doing hands-on work don't have to get into that and don't have to spend a lot of time on that.
Hmm.
And we can have a senior product
Hmm.
designer, and another product designer
Hmm.
with complementary skills to the senior product designer, so that one person can,
All
for
right.
example, handle the research and UX, and the other person can handle UI and the visuals and things like that.
When you're joining a company, तो हायरिंग प्रोसेस किस तरह का होता है जनरली, लाइक इन योर एक्सपीरियंस के व्हाट आर द कंपनीज लुकिंग फॉर इन अ जूनियर डिजाइनर? मतलब एक तो हमने ये बात की कि डिजाइनर्स की एक्सपेक्टेशन क्या हो सकती है व्हेन दे आर लाइक जॉइनिंग अ कंपनी, बट लाइक व्हाट आर कंपनीज लुकिंग फॉर व्हेन दे हायर डिजाइनर्स?
So, talking from experience, मैंने काफ़ी लोगों का इंटरव्यू किया हुआ है at LAMS, at Designers as well, and I feel like what companies are looking for is their uniqueness and what they can contribute in the company. So designs जो हैं, like
हम्म.
visual designs, anybody I would say can learn eventually, and like see inspirations
हम्म.
and try to polish their hard skills. But something that helps them stand out is their problem solving abilities. Like आपको एक प्रॉब्लम अगर दी गई है, आप उसको critically analyze कर सकते हो कि नहीं. But even if you're a UI designer and you're not involved in UX activities, आपको do you understand the difference between something that looks good and something that is technically feasible to implement, something that's a good UX
हम्म.
user experience, and something that looks amazing but it would require an extra step, or it would require more time or more effort on the user's part. तो इस चीज़ में
हम्म.
डिफरेंशिएट करना, प्रॉब्लम
हम्म.
सॉल्विंग करना, ये वाली चीज़ें इज समथिंग दैट वी रियली सी. क्योंकि हार्ड स्किल्स, वी डोंट एक्सपेक्ट द जूनियर डिज़ाइनर्स टू बी अमेजिंग डिज़ाइनर्स एंड अमेजिंग रिसर्चर्स. हार्ड स्किल्स
हम्म.
इवेंचुअली आप लर्न कर लेते हैं. Like I said, अगर कंपनी में we have a
हम्म.
senior product designer, तो वो we pair them up with junior designers and they can also learn on the go.
हाउ डू यू डेवलप दिस सेंस कि मतलब मैं एक जूनियर डिज़ाइनर अगर हूँ और रिगार्डलेस ऑफ द स्किल लेवल दैट आई एम एट अभी, कि मेरा विजुअल डिज़ाइन स्किल अच्छा है या मेरा रिसर्च जो है स्किल्स अच्छे हैं, ये जिस सेंस की आप बात कर रही हैं, हाउ डू वी डेवलप दैट, कि जिसके अंदर आई गेट टू अंडरस्टैंड कि लाइक प्रोडक्ट की सेंस मेरे अंदर कैसे डेवलप हो.
Hmm, that's an excellent question. प्रोडक्ट की सेंस जो है, मैं अपना एक्सपीरियंस बता देती हूँ मेरी। लोगों की यूजुअली इसी तरह डेवलप होती है एज दे वर्क ऑन मोर प्रोडक्ट्स, एज देर एक्सपोज टू रियल
हम्म.
वर्ल्ड चैलेंजेस, तो उनकी ये सेंस डेवलप हो जाती है। फॉर एग्जांपल हमें स्कूल या यूनिवर्सिटी में ये पढ़ाया जाता है कि ये डिज़ाइन प्रोसेस है, ये डिज़ाइन साइकिल है, फॉलो इट। when we enter the real world, when we
हम्म.
start a
हम्म.
project, we realize that we don't have enough time, and we don't have access to
हम्म.
users. How do we conduct all this research? How do we build personas? How do we do that? So then we get this sense while working with the team, okay, which things to prioritize and how to do it. So ये
हम्म.
चीज़ें develop हो जाती हैं with more experience, with mentors, with the community. So over time
हम्म.
आपको ज़्यादा समझ आनी शुरू हो जाती है, and since I come from a services company which is Designist, I got an
हम्म.
opportunity
हम्म.
to reapply these skills in different contexts and in different industries with different clients. तो मैंने कुछ चीज़ें रिपीट की, कुछ चीज़ों में मुझे पता चला कि अच्छा क्लाइंट की प्रायोरिटीज थोड़ी डिफरेंट है, अच्छा टाइमलाइन थोड़ी डिफरेंट है, सो हाउ डू आई अडेप्ट टू दैट।
What do you think is a good way of entering this field? Like अगर कोई shift करना चाह रहा है, like we can talk both in terms of design education, कि like if I want to learn design myself, तो like how should I approach it? And secondly, in terms of mentorship, कि if I'm a person who's looking for mentorship in Pakistan, how can like I find people who are willing to mentor me?
So, if you don't come from a design background and you want to get into design, so your
Mhm.
question is how to get into design, right? Um,
Yeah,
इसमें
yeah.
what people do is they start off with passion projects. They just pick a project, they study design online. For example, certifications होती हैं, Google की होती है, and you learn from
Mhm.
the community. You take a course,
Yeah.
or a boot camp, and then you apply that to a project,
Mhm.
and I would call that a passion
Okay.
project, or I would call that something that you practice your skills on. So that's
Mhm.
one way to approach it. But at the same time, I feel like when you work with an actual client, when you work
Mhm.
at a real world project, आपको काफी different challenges का पता चलता है, काफी limitations का पता चलता है, and that's where those
Mhm.
skills come in. So you start off with understanding what the design process is, you practice that on a project, and then you apply for an internship or a fellowship somewhere, or even a job somewhere, because people
Mhm.
are looking for junior designers for multiple reasons. Because they feel that junior designers come with a lot of energy, with a lot of passion to learn. So ऐसा नहीं है कि job नहीं मिलेगी.
Mhm.
Start applying, get somewhere, and look for mentors, look for senior designers who've been working there or who've been in this field for like more than 2 or 3 years, and ask them things,
Mhm.
like shadow them in meetings, shadow them on another project, like just be very curious to learn. um, काफ़ी लोग ये करते रहते हैं कि they don't move to industry soon enough, and they keep on polishing their skills in silos. So वो
Mhm.
चीज़ I would recommend कि
Mhm.
आप जाएं बाहर, you get involved in different projects, and that's where learning happens. Another pathway for them
Yeah, go ahead.
is that of freelancing. So that's like if they have like
Mhm.
a well designed portfolio, they can work with a real client on freelancing platforms like Upwork,
Mhm.
and then they also get exposed to different things through that.
पोर्टफोलियो कैसे बनाया जाए? लाइक एक एक बड़ा मसला ये होता है कि आपने कोर्स कर लिया। अच्छा, अगर आप इफ़ यू आर अ पर्सन हू लाइक विलिंग टू गिव दैट मच टाइम, कि आपने पूरा एक कोर्स किया है जिसके अंदर दे हेल्प यू बिल्ड समथिंग, बट लाइक व्हेन यू आर मेकिंग योर ओन पोर्टफोलियो, तो उसमें क्या चीज़ किन चीज़ों का ख़्याल रखना चाहिए बेसिकली? दैट्स माय क्वेश्चन.
Right. सो पोर्टफोलियो बिल्ड करते वक्त काफ़ी चीज़ों का ख्याल रखना चाहिए। एक तो लाइक आई टेल यू व्हाट अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल डू दैट आई हैव सीन एंड व्हाट एग्जैक्टली
Mm-hmm.
recruiters are looking for in a portfolio that they should include. A lot of people have this basic
Mm-hmm.
template जो कि Behance पे काफ़ी लोग अपनी केस स्टडीज डालते हैं, तो एक टेम्पलेट होती है कि we have a cover page, then we have a little bit of the process कि we followed the whole design process and this is the wireframes, उनकी screenshots होती हैं। फिर होता है कि this is what
Mm-hmm.
the UI look like and looks like, and thank you for looking at the case study.
Mm-hmm.
So this is good, like it's a good
Yeah.
starting point, but what recruiters are really looking
Mm-hmm.
for is your design process and your thinking and your limitations and any challenges
Mm-hmm.
that you faced. So, what your role was, define that. If
Mm-hmm.
you're working with team members, state it. How long it took, you can write that down. What problem were you solving? Like, was this problem validated? Talk about it. Um, and then उसके बाद आपने exactly like okay, this is what we've read about कि design cycle ये होती है. I don't believe you when you say कि मैंने हर चीज़ 100% की है. Like of course कुछ चीज़ें आपने ज़्यादा deeply की हैं, कुछ चीज़ें आपने इतनी deeply नहीं की, तो आपको challenges क्या क्या आए उसमें, and with a lot of focus on the research that you've done, the primary research. If you got an opportunity to talk to users, if you didn't get access to users, you can like mention that as well. Like it's okay. Every project has limitations. And then like if you made an information architecture, like सारी चीजें जो आपने ideation phase में की हैं, design phase में की हैं, all of that, and then comes the UI. You can show your mood board, any inspiration that you've taken from other places, and then how you actually designed the UI. So, did you design multiple variants of, for example, navigation कैसे होएगी? मैं tabs use करूँ, मैं list view use करूँ, मैं cards use करूँ? Like, did you like your whole process? Like, if you made any sketches, even if they're rough, include that. What we're trying to see is कि आपका actual real process क्या था? And then in the end, it's also good to include a retrospective section in which you reflect on what you've done, what you could have done better, and how you like if you want to take this further, like how can you improve it. So all of that is very important
Mm-hmm.
in a case study. What I was saying
Okay.
was that these days it's so easy to create a portfolio. People can create it on Figma. Some people create it on Canva even. It doesn't matter what tool you're using. Eventually, of course, like when you're senior enough, you can also like look into your own website that gives you an edge, that shows people that you care about your presentation and your portfolio. So it gives like a personal touch. It's good to have a website, but it's not necessary. Behance hai, we have Canva. People start off with that. We have Figma, and we can also use
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn to show our projects.
What's what are some of the resources that you think that you use constantly as a designer, like things that you keep coming back to, or things that you think that help in the design process? They could be like online resources, websites, any other thing that you'd like to share with us. Yeah.
Mhm. When resources की बात की जाए तो IDEO is a great resource when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to learning about
Mm-hmm.
methodologies and research. तो उनकी एक बड़ी अच्छी सी concise handbook है which tell you about every research method and what and actual techniques on how to do them. So I really like that. When I'm
Mm-hmm.
conducting research and I'm out in the field, I usually refer to that. इसके अलावा it's good to be knowledgeable about um, how UX में psychology का use होता है. So growth.design is a nice platform. It's very fun to use. उसके अंदर ना उन्होंने psychological concepts बताए हुए हैं that are related to UX, and they also have some case studies that show okay they are using this concept and this is working well and this is not working well. So that's also a really
Mm-hmm.
good resource that I sometimes use. एंड ये ग्रोथ और डिज़ाइन वाली
Okay.
चीज़ जो मैंने बताई है ना, ये उसमें भी बड़ी यूज़फुल है। व्हेन यू आर एक्चुअली टॉकिंग टू अ क्लाइंट एंड कन्विंसिंग देम ऑन समथिंग, यू गेट टू टॉक अबाउट कि ओके, दिस इज़ अ कॉन्सेप्ट दैट एग्जिस्ट इन यूएक्स एंड दिस इज़ व्हाई इट्स इम्पोर्टेंट एंड दैट्स व्हाई, मतलब दिस इज़ व्हाई आई एम एडवोकेटिंग फॉर इट. Of course, there are
Mm-hmm.
certifications that people who start off, they learn from them. I did a few certifications on Google. There are a lot of courses on Skillshare that are focused on specific skills. Like if you're new to Figma, so there are a huge variety of Figma tutorials and tips and shortcuts on Skillshare. Acha,
Mm-hmm.
one resource that I would really, really recommend is Mobin, Mobbin. इस पे ना screenshots हैं of leading applications worldwide for any flow. So more than Dribble, more than Behance, I use Mobin to see के
Okay.
actual companies क्या करें, because I'm in Pakistan, I might not have access to applications जो बाहर हैं. मैं fully, मैं for example
Mm-hmm.
शायद हो सकता है कि PayPal पूरी तरह ना यूज़ कर सकूं. So on Mobin, these screenshots exist. So you actually get to see the flows and what they've
Mm-hmm.
done well. इसके अलावा फिग्मा कम्युनिटी में काफ़ी फ्रीली अवेलेबल डिज़ाइन सिस्टम्स हैं, टेम्पलेट्स हैं टू गेट स्टार्टेड, इलस्ट्रेशंस, आइकन्स, एनिमेशंस, इस टाइप की चीज़ें हैं. बट दैट्स मोर ऑन द यूआई फ्रंट. आई वुड सजेस्ट कि इतने रिसोर्सेज, इतनी टेम्पलेट्स ऑलरेडी अवेलेबल होती हैं, सो यू डोंट हैव टू स्टार्ट फ्रॉम स्क्रैच. It's a very good skill to have, to learn how
Mm-hmm.
to adapt to different resources, how to take a design system and change it according to your needs, so that you don't have to spend hours and days and
Mm-hmm.
weeks just making a button, making an input field, because ये हमारे लिए ही हैं resources available.
So let's move on to quick questions then. सबसे पहले तो I'll ask you about some of the books, your favorite book or books you want to recommend to other people maybe.
Okay, so everybody who starts off with design knows about this book, and that is The Design of Everyday Things by Don Norman. Don't miss out on
Mm-hmm.
it. उसमें बहुत basic concepts बड़ी अच्छी तरह described हैं, and it's very easy to read. It's for beginners who don't know about design or product and they want to get into it. उससे आपको पता
Mm-hmm.
चलता है कि हर रोज़ की चीज़ें आप जो यूज़ कर रहे हैं उसमें क्या इतने बेसिक फॉल्ट्स हैं दैट मेक इट डिफिकल्ट टू यूज़. इसके अलावा अदर बुक्स इन दिस फील्ड दैट I've read and I would recommend is Hooked, which tell you about different techniques that companies use to make their products, uh, very, how companies make their products addictive for people to use. So that's what the
Mm-hmm.
book Hooked focuses on. And
Mm-hmm.
इसके अलावा there's an amazing read for called Thinking Fast and Slow. So that is for people who struggle with making decisions too slowly, and some people who are very impulsive. It tells you the difference between them, and it also
Mm-hmm.
has some practical tips. So I would really recommend that. A resource that I'm using currently is Blinkist. उसमें ये होता है कि
Mm-hmm.
it gives summaries of books. uh, एंड आई वुड रिकमेंड कि आप ब्लिंकिस्ट का फ्री ट्रायल यूज़ करके देख लें बेशक. उसमें आपको समरी पता चल जाती है, मेन पॉइंट्स पता चल जाते हैं. एंड बट डोंट लिमिट योर सेल्फ टू दैट. गो अहेड एंड रीड दैट बुक इफ़ यू लाइक द मेन पॉइंट्स ऑफ द बुक. देन गो
Mm-hmm.
अहेड एंड बाय द एक्चुअल बुक एंड रीड इट. तो मैंने इसी तरह से एक दो बुक्स पढ़ी हैं कि मुझे पता चल गया कि ओके, दिस इज समथिंग दैट आई रियली वांट टू लर्न मोर अबाउट, सो आई वुड go ahead and
Mm-hmm.
buy it.
Okay, that's really nice. Who's your favorite artist or designer, or maybe a design company that you really like?
Um, I would like to give like a very contextualized answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
I really like, when it comes to digital art, I love Nafe's work on Instagram. You can search
Ah,
him up.
yeah, yeah,
Abdul Nafe पूरा नाम है उसका, I think.
yeah,
But he
exactly.
has amazing landscape
Mm-hmm.
art that I myself would love to learn. He has a unique
Okay.
style to it as well, and they're very wallpaper friendly styles. When it comes to typography, Ravas, Hamas is like
Yeah.
really good at Urdu typography. He's conducted like a few sessions in UX Pakistan as well this year.
Mhm.
So these are some great designers like who are actually showing their work, working on different things in Pakistan, and I'm really happy कि Pakistani community भी
Mhm.
इतनी आगे निकल गई है.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, wonderful. So, acha, the next question is a design podcast, or it could be a design show, a documentary that you keep like that you would recommend to other people.
I would recommend people watching Abstract क्योंकि वो काफ़ी
Mm-hmm.
लोगों के experiences बताता है. So
Yeah.
you understand from start till how they became successful, what their
Mm-hmm.
journey looks like. You learn about things that they didn't do well, things that you can relate to. So आपको पता चल जाता है कि हर एक की journey
Mm-hmm.
perfect नहीं होती. People aren't born
Mm-hmm.
intelligent and successful, they work towards it. So that's a
Yeah.
documentary I would really recommend people to watch.
What would you be if you were not a designer?
That's a tough one. I would probably be a digital artist if I wasn't
Oh.
a product designer. It's just like related to what I'm really interested. I've always been interested in as a child, but I do feel
Mm-hmm.
that this is a really good career for me because I don't get bored. I get to work on different industries, um, and it's just a perfect blend of problem solving and design and actually getting to work on impactful projects, which I feel like it is अगर मैं digital designer होती तो मुझे वो एक चीज़ ना मिलती. So I'm really happy
Okay.
with my career. Let's not change it.
Yeah, that's nice. Okay. So one tip for anyone who's joining the design industry in Pakistan right now.
Somebody who is joining a design industry, abhi, I would suggest ke try finding your unique skills. Uh, try reflecting on who you are, what you really want to do, and try to understand कि what your personality traits are and try to use those to your advantage. मैं आपको एक example दे देती हूँ. My colleagues and everybody says that I'm a very organized person. So I've used this skill that I was perhaps born with uh, to my advantage. क्योंकि I organize projects, I organize people and teams, I work on process flows, I make sure that everything is done on time. So या आपकी जो यूनिक स्किल्स है ना उसको आइडेंटिफाई करना एंड देन यूजिंग दैट इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट आई फील एंड ये आपकी एक यूनिकनेस होगी लाइक इफ आई थिंक अबाउट अनम आई वुड हैव दिस ट्रेट इन माइंड इफ आई थिंक अबाउट रजा आई वुड हैव दिस ट्रेट इन माइंड so that's very important that people like this is a journey like you don't wake up one day and find out that you are this person ये एक आपको एक रिफ्लेक्शन की एक्टिविटी करनी पड़ती है to understand who you are and that can take some time
One product that you cannot live without.
like does it have to be an app or a device or like किस किस्म का product.
It could be anything. It could be a digital product. It could be a physical product.
Currently, my answer would be that I cannot live without Notion and Notion calendar because I use it every day to organize my life.
Okay.
इसमें मेरे different चीज़ें हैं like my personal stuff, my work related stuff, my chores. I get to track it, and that's how I actually get to do things and finish things. So I won't be able to live without productivity tools similar to Notion or Notion itself.
Okay, so my last question is basically जो कि दो question है sort of. एक तो your experience about the growth of design community and industry in Pakistan over the last 5 years. आपको क्या कितना फर्क नज़र आता है? How do you think we have grown as a community, as an industry? And also, what do you see for us in the future? How do you think is the Pakistani design community going to grow in the future? Especially given कि अब जब AI tools आ रही हैं and there's like a lot of competition, What do you think is going to happen in the next 5 years?
So over the last 5 years, I feel like the design industry has become a lot more mature in Pakistan. So most companies as well as designers have understood how to differentiate between different roles such as graphic design, branding, UI design, and UX design, of course, with some
Hmm.
exceptions. And also, people have stopped reinventing the wheel with more access to resources, open or licensed design systems, templates, and tools. And what this means is that time save ho jata hai, like less time is spent on tedious and menial tasks, and more time can then be spent on UX intensive tasks and conducting research and talking to users, testing your ideas and everything.
Hmm.
So I remember 5 years ago, I used to use Adobe XD, and then
Hmm.
Figma came and it changed every designer's life. So, till this day, I use Figma a lot. I use it even for making presentations, which is not primarily used for, but it's just very easy to use.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
इसके अलावा one thing that I feel like was has been lacking in the Pakistani industry is that a lot of people are not focusing as much on the research front. I
Hmm.
feel like they do some competitor analysis and makes a mood board and then just copy what other people are doing. So like that's like it hasn't changed so much. I
Hmm.
feel in the future with better tools and more awareness on the importance of research and on the importance of tailoring your ideas to your users,
Hmm.
and with access to more techniques. जैसे मैंने IDEO का जिक्र किया था कि रिसोर्सेज उधर भी अवेलेबल हैं, सो दे टॉक अबाउट टेक्निक्स.
Yeah.
And just picking and choosing the techniques and methods that work well in Pakistani context, I think all of this will make a
Hmm.
difference. So I would recommend like even duct tapes can have like a session on research in the future,
Yeah.
that talk
Yeah.
about कि हम research techniques को local context में किस तरह से apply कर सकते हैं. So this is like a very different
Hmm.
conversation. ये चीज़ I feel like कि in
Yeah.
the future this can be improved on. How it will, it's expected
Hmm.
to evolve in the future is that I'm hopeful that we'll have more defined roles in the product department. Like not one person will be wearing all the hats that exist, but like
Hmm.
we'll have like good differentiation. Um, they like fintech apps are evolving a lot. There's a lot of emphasis on AI as we move ahead. So
Hmm.
in the future, it could be that a lot of companies are using AI techniques, everything that GPT has to offer, and then using that in their products to improve them.
So one question that I had was कि वो कौन सा project है in your design career that you enjoyed the most up till now?
Mhm. So in my career, I recently got a chance to work with Techlogics on their product. It's called Adalfi, and that is basically एज अ बैंकिंग कस्टमर आपने क्रेडिट कार्ड के लिए अप्लाई करना है. अब आप बैंक ब्रांच में जाके विजिट करते हैं, फिर वहाँ पर पूरा प्रोसेस होता है, डॉक्यूमेंट्स होते हैं, वो सारा कुछ आप करके फिर आपको शायद आप अप्रूव हो जाएं, शायद ना होएं, एंड देन उसके बाद कई दिन बाद आप क्रेडिट कार्ड आपके घर पे आके मिलता है. सो दे आर ऑटोमेटिंग
Hmm.
दिस होल प्रोसेस इन विच इट विल जस्ट टेक लाइक 10 minutes, and you can sit at home and apply for a credit card. So banks have some processes, they have some legal things, which means के users को कुछ form fill out करना होता है. So what we did was we completely revamped this journey. We made it simpler. So this was a UX and a UI
Hmm.
activity. So UX in the sense कि
Hmm.
हमने existing product को study किया, हमने data उनका जो gather हुआ हुआ है वो देखा closely,
Hmm.
and then we suggested like a very user friendly and a good experience to this journey. We
Hmm.
structured the content, we made the number of clicks lesser, and
Hmm.
overall enhanced the user experience. And on top of that, I worked with my team at design is to create a robust design system, which means कि हमने design system को ऐसे से बनाया कि आप, for example, Adalfa is working with BOP. Tomorrow they'll be working with JS Bank. तो ना BOP की जो design
Mm-hmm.
file होगी, in 10 minutes they can convert that to JS. They can convert the colors, they can convert
Oh.
the type scale, and they can also like go into such granularity कि आपका input field अगर आपके ब्रांड में इस तरह से है कि आपकी बिल्कुल राउंडेड एजेस हैं, आप उनको शार्प कर सकते हो, आप उनको सॉफ्ट कर सकते हो, एंड लाइक थिंग्स लाइक दैट.
Mm-hmm.
सो डिज़ाइन सिस्टम काफ़ी रोबस्ट बनाया था, सो लाइक आई रियली enjoyed working on that, and I enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
revamping the complete user journey for the product.
Okay, so any closing remarks, Anam?
So I'd like to highlight some skills or qualities that aspiring product designers should focus on. It is एक तो मैंने पहले बात की थी about finding your unique abilities, your uniqueness, something that helps you stand out. इसके अलावा there are some soft
Mm-hmm.
skills that everybody should work on. One of them is to
Mm-hmm.
be able to communicate effectively and giving proactive
Yeah.
updates to your managers, to your team members. Like over communication is better than not communicating enough, is what I'm an advocate
Mm-hmm.
of. इसके अलावा learning the difference between copying and gaining inspiration. A lot of people say कि I gained inspiration from this application, but they're actually ended up copying it completely. So using resources
Mm-hmm.
appropriately. For example,
Mm-hmm.
using like I personally use dribble as well. Like आपने सुना होगा community में बहुत debate होती है कि dribble नहीं use करना चाहिए, it's not a good platform. But the
Mm-hmm.
reality is कि if you use dribble appropriately, which means कि आप अपना mood board बना रहे हो when you're working on a UI, तो take screenshots
Mm-hmm.
from dribble and see what the trends are when it comes to UI and visuals. Of course, apply your skills and your knowledge about what is feasible and what is not, what is functional, what is best for
Mm-hmm.
users. But use dribble, for example, for ideation on branding, on colors, on how things are laid out, on how to make cards more visually appealing, and not particularly, for example,
Mm-hmm.
UX flows. Using resources like
Yeah.
Mobin
Yeah.
for understanding के UX
Mm-hmm.
flows कैसे काम कर रहे हैं of related applications. So basically
Mm-hmm.
learning the difference between that. Fourthly, being curious and not reserved in your field. Like question everything and everyone, no
Mm-hmm.
matter who it is and what stage you're at. In the beginning, there is a lot of ambiguity, but over time you get more clarity. So being
Mm-hmm.
curious and asking
True.
questions and documenting everything is very, very important. And lastly, it's something that I personally struggled with it as well, and I'd like to like give my advice is que learn to be
Mm-hmm.
okay with not all questions being answered in the beginning. Like embrace uncertainty. Over time, with more
Mm-hmm.
experience,
Yeah.
I have learned to trust my gut and move forward with my decisions or my
Mm-hmm.
hypothesis. Like, even if I'm 70% certain about something, I will move ahead with it. I don't need to be 100% sure, and
Yeah.
that's okay. We always learn from our mistakes, and we have a better chance of succeeding eventually. So, these are
Mm-hmm.
some tips from my side.
Thank you so much for sharing these. I guess जो last part आपने कहा है, I can relate to that quite a lot. क्योंकि as designers ये एक बहुत बड़ा मसला होता है कि unless you get a very like solid solution to a problem, आपके जहन में एक doubt चलता रहता है कि is it really the best thing that like that's going to solve the problem? But like I can relate to that, yeah. So thank you so much, Anam, for this podcast and giving us your time and advice and all the feedback.
Thank you for having me, and I am happy to help the community grow. And I would love to listen to the podcast with other people as well and learn more from them. This is a great initiative, Raza.
Thank you so much.